Snyder.
Good afternoon and welcome. It's great to have you with us again today. We got another couple of great guests lined up today, and I'm looking forward to getting them, to them. But just remind all of our listening audience out there, we hope that you will help us spread the word about Charter School Radio. Our goal here, once again, is to make sure that all the parents out there throughout the United States, and in all honesty, because we're on the internet, throughout the world, understand what we mean when we talk about educational choice. And once again, it means the freedom to choose a school that matches your child's needs, not necessarily everybody else's. It's the freedom to choose a school that meets your standards, not the government's, and it's the freedom to choose a school based on its quality, not its address. That's what educational choice is all about. That is what the charter school movement's all about. That's what the voucher initiative is all about, to give parents a choice. After all, they are the parents, and they should have a decision on where their sons and daughters get educated, not necessarily the government. And we believe in competition. We believe in that freedom of choice. And our goal is to spread the word, get feature charter schools that are successful, get on think tanks, and anybody that can give us insights as to how we can continue to improve our public school system. It's taken a long time to turn this big ship around, and it'll probably take a few more years yet, but we've made great inroads, a lot of exciting things happening throughout the United States as far as the school choice movement goes. And a good example is that our first guest here, and before I get to her, I have to brag just a little bit, and I shouldn't do this, I know, but I have to. The old saying is, as a football coach, that when you lose, say little, and when you win, say even less. But USC reviewed 800 charter school campuses in the state of California, and based on different criteria, and I'm not going to go into all those right now because I want to get to our first guest here, but the number one rated school in all of San Diego, based, again, on USC's review of 800 campuses, Heritage K-8 Charter School, which is our K-8 school, was rated number one based on the different criteria they chose. And maybe some other time we'll go into a little more detail on that. It's really nice to see that, though, and it makes us very humble, but the old saying is, we're humble but hungry. We want to continue to improve, and that's what our staff, I know, will do. But anyhow, with that set aside, sorry I had to brag about our school a little bit, but I wanted to get to our first guest. Her name is Debbie Beyer, and she's with Literacy First Charter School here in California, and she was invited back, and I want to get into the details about it, but she was invited back to some hearings back in Washington, D.C. I think it was sponsored by Congressman Duncan Hunter Jr., and we'll get a little more of those details. But Debbie, welcome to Charter School Radio.
Hi, Coach. Thank you very much.
It's great to have you with us, but before we get into some of you're going back to D.C. and how that happened and what the purpose was, why don't you let the folks know a little bit about your Literacy First Charter School. You were one of the original charter school developers, and I know you've done a fantastic job, and from those early years, I know you've also expanded into the high school market, but talk a little bit about your original getting started. What drew you to the charter school movement? Because I think our listening audience likes to hear that.
Well, I've been involved in education pretty much since, my whole life, either as a student or a teacher in some way. And when I got out of college, I worked as I graduated from New Mexico State University, and I taught in New Mexico pretty much just a total bilingual program, and then moved out here to California and taught in public schools out here. And as a young teacher, kind of naive to the whole thing, I was teaching for La Mesa Spring Valley, and it was during the time when there was a presidential election, and the teachers union came out with this whole, teachers union supports these people. And I was like, no, they don't. I'm not. That's not who I'm backing. And I realized I didn't have a choice. I mean, they were speaking for me, and I didn't have a choice.
Right.
And that was the first reality check of, what? Wait a minute here. These are not my people. This is not what I want to do. So I made a decision at that point to get out of the public arena, and I went and taught for a private school. And so I taught for a private school for a while, and that was not the perfect place either, And at that time, I started working on my master's degree, and I was doing my master's in parents' involvement in their kids' education, Reagan's Nation at Risk report came out saying parents were the number one factor in their children's success. So I got involved with the homeschooling movement and worked with homeschoolers. I was a young mom at that time. I didn't want to get out of education, so I worked as a consultant and then started having these little classes in my house. And when I had about 150 kids in my garage, I kind of thought, maybe I should do something else about this, And so, I've always been involved. And when the charter school movement came around, my dad was on the State Board of Education in New Mexico, and he kept saying, Debbie, this is you all over. You need to get involved in this. And so I got involved with a gentleman who was had gotten some funding for us to do some research and write grants and kind of research this whole concept of charter schools. And so we wrote several grants and then actually wrote 2 charters and went through that process to get the 2 charters approved, which was not an easy task. And the one charter was up in North County, and I kind of let that go because that was going a totally different direction, political, charters
Exactly.
would be like political lightning rods, and that was not, I could see that was not one that I wanted to be a part of. So I stayed involved with the one in El Cajon, and we started in June of 2001. We went to the Cajon Valley school district first, and they were pretty clueless and pretty much kind of said, we don't want to do this. This isn't anything we want to do. And I said, well, it's not really your choice. I mean, this is an official document. You have to do something with it. It was kind of a kangaroo court. They didn't know what to do with it. They denied us, and we went to the county on appeal. And so our charter, although we are in El Cajon, we are authorized through the San Diego County Board of Education.
In fact, I remember that. I think I even went down to one of the hearings they had in there when you guys were getting your charter through the county.
We just got our second approval, got our renewal, our final vote last Wednesday night. So we got our
congratulations.
We're going on our 11th. This will be, this is our 10th year this year. So we started with 114 little boys and girls, kindergarten through 3rd grade, and over the next, 7-8 years, we've built out to where we have 3 different campuses. About 1,000 kids, kindergarten through 8th grade, and then 3 years ago we launched our high school, and that charter was a separate charter, and basically because of geographical areas, because we started our charter in Cajon Valley, and an anti-charter legislation. Every time you turn around, there's some sort of legislation that's tracking charters in. AB 1996 states that you have to stick in the geographical boundaries where you started. So anytime Literacy First grows, we have to still stay in Cajon Valley, even though the county is our authorizer.
Right.
So we looked for 3 years trying to find a property to put a high school and just couldn't. And so the only way we knew a way out of that was to get another charter approved through Grossmont School District because the footprint of Grossmont is larger than Cajon Valley. And so we went to Cajon Valley and got a K-12 charter approved through Grossmont. And just right now have the high school. The K-8, we've kept all the K-8s under the Literacy First through the county. And so this is our 3rd year for the high school. Actually, their 1st year with their own property because we kind of shared a facility with our 4th through 8th grade campus. But this year that campus is in La Mesa, and we're going through all the growing pains of growing a high school, which is, in these economic times is a tough thing. But
for our listening audience, just obviously they know that the state budgets in all of the states are kind of in the same place, and obviously with all the deferrals and the uncertainty and our dear little legislators not getting their act together and actually passing a budget when they're supposed to, we still have to function.
Exactly.
so it is challenging.
It has been a challenge, and when you're trying to build, our parents, our dream is that our 8th graders would become our high schoolers. But starting a new high school program, our 8th grade parents are used to pretty much all the bells and whistles. And with Liberty being completely separate from literacy, it doesn't have the assets that literacy has. And so, crossing over funds and all that sort of thing, we haven't had all the resources we would have liked to start to have Liberty going. And so, and it takes you a little while just to get the whole thing going, getting your AP classes and your sports program and all that stuff.
Oh, no, it's a whole different ballgame. It really is.
So, we have got our sports program going now, and, we've got our courses up and running, and having our own facility has made a huge difference. So we're looking at next year really being, and we have about 200 students, and
fantastic.
Our goal is we'll never be a large school. I mean, that's the idea. We
Right.
want to be a small school, and so our goal is to probably not have more than 125 kids a grade level. On campus, we may develop into, well, a part of our charter is to have an online, kind of an online,
Right.
multiple, kind of a buffet where they have online options. They can do junior college courses. They can do classes on site, kind of a whole buffet, because I think that's really...
That's the trend. That's where things are going. Exactly.
Kids aren't all wanting four-year schools with football teams and cheerleaders, you
Yep.
know? And so we're seeing that that's where we're being able to kind of fill a niche with a different kind of student, different kind of parents that want different things. And so, that's... with the high school, that's kind of where we're going. So.
Well, you've come a long way. I know of some of the trials and tribulations. We've all been there and done that when you start a charter school, but you've done a fantastic job. I know you've got a good co-partner and you got a great team down there.
Definitely have a great
And as
team.
you well know, that's what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, it is definitely. That is the biggest part of this whole deal. I mean, you can have one person or a couple people that
Yep.
start it, but I have the most incredible staff, people that are completely invested in what we're doing and totally sold out and killing themselves daily.
Yep.
Because unlike the regular public schools, we know that we are not entitled to exist. And
Exactly,
our bottom
yep.
line comes down to accountability.
We got to prove
And
ourselves.
We're not proving every day that we are entitled to be here by academic achievement and students making a difference in their test scores. Basically, is what the state cares about.
We got about 5 seconds here, and then when we come back, I want to get into your trip back to Washington, D.C. We'll be right back.
Thanks so much.
We'll be